Welcome to another episode of Living LFTD with Brenton Ross. I have a special guest today, Boris. Boris, this is going to be fun, my man. Just the time that I've been able to spend with you, I was going to say a few months, but it's been at least 6 now. How long have you been?
Like 5 months
Yeah,
now?
right in that range. I met Boris through our mutual friend, Jacob. He brought you by one day and you sat right there on the couch. I remember that day we talked for like an hour and a half.
I remember.
And then you ended up coming to a workout on Saturday. And then I think we came up here and we talked again. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you.
Likewise, man.
You're the real deal, man. We're going to talk a little bit about what you do with Jacob and your guys' company and everything. But I want to focus on you because I believe you have a really awesome story and you're such a genuine person. And watching the way this story has been unfolding over the last couple of months has been incredible. But then when you actually know, like when you've been vulnerable and shared the different, even some of the stuff we were talking about before we started filming, the parts of your life that have led up to the last couple of months really amplify how incredible it's been to see the way things have been transpiring for you. So that being said, I'm very thankful for our friendship and I'm looking forward to this today. So if I remember right, you lived in Florida. Now, were you born in Florida? How did that, so walk me through this, because you jump back and forth and I kind of want to talk through all that because I want to even talk about your experiences and perspectives of the differences of the different countries, different places. So where were you born? How did that all take place?
Yeah, great question. So first off, thanks for having me.
Oh, and I forgot to give you these. Those are our greens. I'm giving those to all of our guests now. So
thank you so much.
Absolutely. Those are yours to go. So go ahead. So where were you born?
Yeah, so I was born in Germany.
Okay.
And then when I was 2, we actually moved to Florida. So my parents always had restaurants in Germany, and then we migrated to Florida. And
what part of Florida?
Fort Myers.
Okay.
So the West Coast.
Yeah.
And then my parents opened up a German restaurant, a German butcher shop, stuff like that. So I grew up in Florida.
Now that part of Florida is not what most people picture the Miami. Scene.
Thankfully, I'd like to say, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
But it's much more like a country style almost.
Yes.
Vibe instead of like the South Beach party.
100%. Yeah, it's slower.
Yes,
it's calmer, and then it gets busy when the snowbird season starts.
Okay,
right? Where everybody from the north coming down.
Did you like it there?
I did. Yeah. Yes, I loved it. I fell in love with it. I grew up as an American as well. Went to school. I mean, I didn't even speak German until we moved back to Europe.
Okay,
so fully American, and yeah, enjoyed. It was 12 or 13 years before we then. My parents decided to move back to Europe.
Okay. What was that like for you when you moved to Europe? I mean, that had to be such a big adjustment for you.
For me, moving to Germany without knowing the language, and I'd like to say I understood German, but I didn't speak it. So I understood my parents. They'd speak
Was it
German
because they
me.
Always kind of mutter it at you your whole childhood, speak it to you? And
yeah, they'd speak with me. I mean, maybe I spoke a little, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And it was a whole new change because at that time I was 14, 13, something like that.
Yeah. Living pick up and move.
Living an amazing life in Florida on the beach, right? My friends, school, tennis class, stuff like that. All the great things to a town in Germany, in South Germany, and not even close to a bigger city, but still like 30 minutes away into, a little town. And when I mean town, right?
Okay.
Not a lot of people there, very small town, just
what was the adjustment like for you? I mean, how did you handle it?
So I felt like I was ripped out of something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And I just had to adapt. So I was thrown into this wild new world where I didn't speak the language. Culturally, everything was different as well. And you just had to adapt. Right. And then my parents were they're business owners. So they're busy as well. So it's really just like, okay, figure it out. And I had to learn German, went to a German school, had to go to German class after school every day, had to take the bus there, then go have German school, come back and all those things. And then you're very alone at some point.
Yeah.
Right. Even though everybody's around you,
Sure.
This isn't home. This is like you're ripped out. Right.
It was
difficult. Yes.
Yeah. Did you play sports here and there? What did that look like?
Yeah. So I played sports here in school, after school. My whole family plays tennis or played tennis. So I just got thrown into it as well.
Yeah.
And then I started picking it up in Germany again, but a couple years later. Like I felt like I first had to adjust to the country and learn the language.
Because my question I was going to follow that up with is, did you find that specifically, I guess, tennis, since that was a sport you were playing, was almost a little bit of like a gateway to find a community and to feel like you belonged to something because you both had a commonality in that sport?
Yes.
With the rest of the group or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. Once I got to that point where I did pick up tennis again and my dad played with me and kind of got integrated, that's where I then found friends and people like that. But it took a couple years.
Sure.
So I'd say at least
But that
2
couple
years.
years felt like an eternity too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when you're having to take German classes after school itself, obviously that's going to severely intensify the difficulty of school for you.
Right.
What did you see? Now, keeping that in perspective, like obviously it's going to be harder regardless because you're having to learn a language at the same time. But like the curriculum itself, the style of school itself, that age, what kind of difference did you see between the States and there? Because I asked that right now, I feel like you hear a lot that like our high schools or, even just our curriculum in general for public schools has gotten less and less rigorous. It's becoming a lot easier than it used to be, while other countries are still maintaining the difficulty or even increased it, and that it's hurting our overall IQ of our, kids and everything coming up in school.
Right.
So how did you see it compared? And that's going to be basically country to country, of course.
Absolutely. And even that time frame too, right? Because this was like early 2000s.
Okay.
Right. So for me personally, I repeated a class in Germany because of time-wise of when kids are schooled or put into school.
So you got a really good sample set then, because you repeated something you've already done here and then did it there.
Yeah,
okay,
and yet
interesting.
I did still have troubles there, even though I repeated kind of what I did here, right? So it is more rigorous, definitely, but different. Now, that's the only experience. I only had experience in U.S. schools until the age of 12, 13.
Okay,
right?
sure.
So lower school, middle school, high school, I can't say anything about. I can't relate. I can share my experience from Germany.
Yeah.
It's definitely not like the school system here, even just what a high school looks like, things like that. Everything's more efficient. And what I mean by that doesn't have to be positive, but it's like you have some after school activities that you can do, but the school doesn't push and focus on that. Right. So you don't have like a tennis group or a basketball team, for example. You do have different sports, let's say a soccer team in German schools and maybe a handball team as well, but it's not hyped up as it is in the States. Right. So there's a difference there as well.
Did you have different hobbies you were into during that time?
From Germany compared to the States?
Just in that time of life. When you're now in high school and just like that time of life, like that had to be really, really hard for you, feeling that alone and feeling that lonely. So sometimes a hobby, whether it's a sport or whatever your hobby may be, an interest, it's almost like an escape.
Yeah.
It's something that makes you feel like you can be in your own little world and you're not alone and you can be happy. Did you have something like that?
Yeah, for me, it was tennis, but also full transparency. For me, my like safe haven was gaming.
Okay. What types of games were you into?
Oh, anything.
Really?
RPG, puzzles, MMOs, shooters, whatever, or first person players, stuff like that. Anything. I always nerded out with it.
I was really into gaming up into college. And then after, when I really got serious in my career, I realized I had to let go of it because of how much time it was taking up.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was a FIFA fanatic.
Really?
Loved FIFA. FIFA 06. I don't care who you put me on with right now. I'm still waxing that ass. NBA 2K, and before that was NBA Live.
Okay.
I loved NBA Live.
Right.
2009. I can specifically remember that. And then, of course, Call of Duty Black Ops was huge during that time. Yeah, I was definitely really, really into that. It was an escape for me. I did enjoy that a lot. It definitely was an escape for me. And I don't know if I even realized it at the time, but I can look back at it now and see that it was for sure.
Yeah.
And you think that's probably was similar for you?
100%. Yeah, that's what I dug into. That and like science fiction books.
Really?
I really enjoyed as well.
Cool.
Yeah. So
like what?
all the
Do you
nerd
have any that
stuff,
stand
too.
out to you that you're really?
Anything from John Butcher, I highly recommend. Amazing author.
I'm not familiar.
Highly recommend sci-fi wise.
Okay.
The Dune books are amazing too.
That's really popular right now, right? Isn't it because there's a show on Netflix or something?
Yeah, there's the movie as well. The movies came out, but there was already a prior movie
Yeah,
back
I've had
in
a
the
couple
day.
people say something about the Dune. I need to check
Highly
that out.
recommend
It is
books.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great
Now,
read.
have you seen the movie and what's out now?
Yes.
Is it good?
Yes, definitely. Really holds up to it as well.
So now, what age? How does that play out from there when you're in Germany?
Yeah, so went to school in Germany, then we moved around within Germany a couple times. Until then, I moved to Vienna randomly.
Okay.
And
What age
lived
is it?
there 20,
Okay.
21.
Okay. And you're on your own.
And I'm on my own.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's
Before that, it was school, living with my parents. I worked in retail a lot, Jack Wolfskin and kind of places like that. Then I had a back injury and had to go to the hospital and was kind of knocked out for a whole year and had to spend like 3 months in the hospital.
that?
My last vertebrae slipped off of my spine bone, and it was from tennis.
Really?
And yeah, I felt this huge. I was actually playing tennis, and I felt this huge pain go all the way down my leg to my toes. Right, it was like an electrical shock, and I like barely could move. It was so painful. So went to the hospital, got an X-ray, did everything. Turns out that vertebrae slipped off of my spine bone, and that's where all your nerves are and go through. Right,
Oh, that
right in
had
the
to be
bottom.
so brutal.
So that's why I felt it in my leg and everything. So yeah, I had to get surgery. They pulled it back. They enforced it. They fused it, I guess. And then I was in the hospital for 3 months because it was more of a problem than they anticipated before they did the surgery. So they had to do a second surgery. And then I had to, I was knocked out, wasn't allowed to stand up from the bed for 3 months, and had to like relearn how to walk too.
Because you atrophy so much.
Yes. And I was like 17, 18, something like that.
Man.
And I remember that first time standing up, everybody's like, okay, take it slow and it'll take a while. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You know, I'm young, I can stand up, I can get everywhere.
Yeah.
I stand up, and then first thing is I knock out. And I'm like, okay, this does need time.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
What goes through your head in that moment?
It was a bad time for me.
Had to be.
My girlfriend of the time broke up while I was in the hospital
come
with
on,
me.
lady.
It was like, she looked at me, she's like, this is too much work. I'm not going to deal with it.
Okay.
So that happened. And then my parents were working, not a lot to do. I was just there. So I had to deal with my own thoughts.
You're alone again.
Yeah, with myself, right? So I feel like that's where I personally could say I became mentally very strong and was able to close off, but also remove my emotions in times when they're not needed or a necessity or they don't do any good at that moment.
the feeling.
Right. Yeah, that happened. And then after that, I came out, I learned how to walk again. Everything's fine and normal too. I started playing tennis as well again.
Now, did they pinpoint, did you fall at some point, or was it just a certain movement
It was
you
just
repeatedly
the way
did?
my spine had already been.
So it was how
me
you were
not,
born.
me not warming up correctly beforehand,
never heard of
after,
that.
things like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
When you went back and started playing again, did you feel like you could play like you did before? Were you limited? Or did you could?
No, I could fully. That was probably one of the problems. I went hard right away when I got back into it and just started working, training, practicing, be out on the court all by myself, playing against the
Did you have a
ball
goal
wall.
to have a career in tennis or something? Or you
It
just
was,
enjoyed it?
yeah. I played tournaments. I had a sponsorship, things like
kidding. I
that.
didn't know any of that.
And then it just didn't work out. Right.
Yeah.
And then I was also told, like, if you go professional with it, or if you really try to go professional with it, it's not going to work out. Right. You're going to have problems. You're going to need surgeries. That was back then.
I see.
Right? Obviously today, probably it'd be
Maybe.
different.
Possibly.
But yeah, that happened. And then I was like, okay, I got to go figure out who I am, what I want, where I want to go. And that was like the next 10, 15 years was discovering what I like, what I want to be, who I want to be, and a lot of failure on the way too.
That's how you learn, but it's scary. Where did you jump around to then?
Yeah, so moved to Vienna. Great experience. Had some ups and downs, some hard times too. But brought myself up to a level where I'd like to see myself and accomplish that. And then I was like, all right, Vienna's done. Then moved back to Germany for a short period, moved to a little outside of Stuttgart. It's called Ludwigsburg. Worked there, really got into retail there. And then through retail was able to move to Berlin and live there.
So you lived in pretty much all the different parts of Germany.
Yeah.
What is, if you could, here's an American asking you, how do you describe the culture there? Because oftentimes I've even had some buddies that are from there and stuff, and they can get the reputation that it's a little bit cold or hard, very cutthroat, intense. Do you feel that that's actually accurate?
Yes, I agree in a way, in a sense, right? Getting into a group of friends or a group of people is difficult at first, but once you're in, they open up. And then you're connected
like
as well.
Almost.
Yeah.
Is it to outsiders or to other Germans as well?
To other Germans as well. Yeah. It's like, let's get to know each other first. Let's see if we could be friends. Let's see if I like you, if you like me. And then when I do accept you into my group of friends, then it's solidified.
That almost kind of comes back to what I've heard they do. You said efficient. Like, let's not waste time. Let's see if we actually are a match. That way we don't waste future time on a relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, in my opinion, this is just my experience, right? I feel like Germany in itself is very efficient in a lot of ways. And though that's
not where my mind went for sure when you first said that, but even in their relationships.
Yeah, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing, right? There can be efficiency that is not good at all, and there's more.
I go to the manufacturing as well, obviously, because they're cars.
Yeah, of course.
Have you been a big car fan because of that?
Yes, I grew into it. Obviously, living there.
I already knew the answer to that question.
Yeah,
I just wanted to talk about cars a little bit.
Exactly. I love Porsche as well.
Yeah.
And
now, over there they say Porsche or Porsche?
They say Porsche. Yeah. So a German says Porsche.
My buddy Perry owns European Detail next door. Every time I say Porsche instead of Porsche, he gets on me. So I was hoping you'd say Porsche.
Yeah. So it really depends, Porsche or Porsche. But Porsche is but not Porsche. That's very American.
Very American.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to be throwing that back at you, Perry.
Exactly.
Coming at you, Perry.
Yeah.
All right. Next. Now, where are we at? So you're still in Germany.
Yeah. So lived in Berlin. Lived there for a year. It was a fun city. Really great. Just not for me.
What are you doing for a living?
I was working for American Apparel.
Really?
In retail, yeah. Okay. As a store manager.
I worked at J. Crew for a little bit.
Oh, really? Yeah. American Apparel. I've worked for other brands, high-end brands as well, stuff like that. But in that part, it was for American Apparel.
Okay.
Yeah. Super fun, exciting. Like I said, the city just isn't for me. It's too wild. I was always more laid back, and Berlin is really crazy when it comes to living there and partying there as well.
Like and that intense, like electronic music.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah.
EDM, whatever you want.
I have a friend that was the videographer for like a. Oh man, what's the genre of that? It's like the super heavy. That's driving, not hard style. It's not. It's like
electronic.
I mean, the whole time they're like, dun, 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 dun. Like it's what was that? But anyways, he traveled with them for like a year and did all of that. And I would watch the videos of his shows, and it was intense.
Yeah,
man, was that intense?
Yeah, they go hard.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up, and I'm sure you probably heard of this guy because he was a big DJ.
Okay,
and he got to do a lot of amazing things, all the different festivals, and then came over here and did a tour and everything. But the life that comes with that, they'd have a show till 4 a.m. and then they'd be on a plane the next morning and fly for 12 hours, and then that night have a show. And I remember talking to my buddy, and he was just like, yeah, this is an amazing opportunity, and I'm thankful, but it definitely has a timeline on it because I can't live this life for forever.
No.
It'd be very, very, very hard.
All the partying that you have to do too, because you're kind of pulled into it, especially when you're DJing and then drinks.
He wasn't that guy either at all. That's not his style whatsoever. So he was just there to work.
Right.
And so being the sober guy in that environment's tough.
Yeah, it gets to you.
That's something, honestly, I've never been really able to do. I'd never liked being in those environments as the sober guy. That was tough for me. I just hated it. It was uncomfortable, and you're not on that level. It's annoying, and it's just it's different.
I preferred to drive when I'm like going out or when I went out and we go clubbing or anything, because I could then leave when I want to and not have to wait till somebody, right? Or till the group decides or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
no, control your own destiny.
Yeah, exactly. Because that just wasn't for me as well. Right? Yeah.
That's great. You didn't get caught up in that too.
I did in Vienna.
Okay.
Yeah.
For how
Vienna
long?
Was wild.
It was like
2 years.
Yeah.
But it was a wild party scene. And that's why I really let loose too. I just worked and partied, and partied. And at some point you get it out of your system. You're like, okay.
2 years is a decent amount of time, but I wish I could say mine was only 2 years. So a lot longer than that. And yeah, you just get caught in it. It becomes a lifestyle, a routine. It's beating you up the whole time. It's so unhealthy. But again, you're searching for something.
Of course.
Because there's something in here that's hurting. Or it's broken and you're trying to fix it or just escape from it altogether.
Yeah.
I think mine more so, I knew it wasn't the answer. It wasn't going to fix anything, but it was my escape. And so I was the guy that wanted to like keep it going, like string it. So it's like it's 3 a.m. or whatever and the bar's closed. It's like, okay, we're going to go to the casino now. And then we're going to be there till the sun comes up. And it's like, okay, now let's figure out something. Let's go. Let's take a trip. You know, I didn't want to come down. I didn't want the good time to stop because once it stopped, reality would set back in and I'd have to be
your thoughts come back in
again.
Yeah, exactly. I worked a lot in the restaurant business too because I grew up in it. And every night after we worked, we'd all get together and we'd drink. And I remember there's a restaurant that I worked in across the street was a gas station. In Germany, you have like little slot machines, those automated ones with like the screens and stuff in a gas station in the back. So we'd be back there smoking cigarettes, drinking Jack Daniel's Coke out of a can at 4 in the morning, playing slots.
The gas station.
Yeah, gambling our tips away.
Hey, man, you can make a party anywhere with the right people.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't matter where you're at.
Yeah, crazy times.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What got you out of it?
Oh, that's such a
What
great
made
question.
you think like this just isn't for me anymore? Like you said, it ran its course, but how'd you know it ran its course?
In terms of partying and everything?
Yeah.
I'd like to say once I got into kind of my first stable relationship.
Okay.
Where I saw other priorities.
Okay. I like that.
And then I also didn't like the aftermath of like partying and going out.
How you felt?
How you feel, maybe you were blackout drunk and you were dumb to someone or something like that, right?
You acted out of character.
You like wake up and you're like, okay, let me go through the past 24 hours.
Did you get anxious from that?
Yes.
Yeah, I am too. I hated that.
100%.
And it got worse as time went on too.
Yeah. And then the older you get, the more difficult it is.
In the beginning, it was almost funny if you were an idiot. And then as the time went on, you became anxious about it.
100%.
That was me.
Yeah.
That was a big deterrent for me.
Yeah. And then at some point, I also stopped drinking alcohol. I never needed it or anything. It was fun. I do still to this day enjoy whiskey or wine or anything, but I don't.
But it's not an issue for you. It doesn't have a grip.
I don't have to drink for a year
amazing.
And I'm okay with it.
That's amazing. That's really good.
Yeah, and that just comes up with it.
Yeah. I think, like what you said, the motivation that came with a relationship to do things differently, I can resonate with that. And I think a lot of people can too. But then what ends up even happening with that is if that other person is the motivation instead of like something within yourself that you want to change for your own reasons, then if that person lets you down, hurts you, that relationship ends or whatever, it's easy to slip back into it because your reason for why you changed wasn't within yourself and it was attached to something else and someone else.
100%.
And so I think a lot of us have gone through that cycle as well. I think the healthiest relationships come from when people have their own personal convictions, whether it be through their faith or just their morals or whatever, and the other person does as well, and then they align and those two things complement and support each other. And then if you get married, obviously your vows and things like that are a part of like that motivator, but it had to have something deeper there. It needs to be a foundation there in the first place. So that way when the difficult things in life do transpire and you're facing them together and you might have your differences of opinion, you might have your arguments. Let's not pretend like you're not going to still have arguments. We all still do.
Of course.
But instead of it being about who can be the loudest or the best arguer or the most stubborn or, even play hard to get and make the other person chase you or whatever game you want to play to try to win.
Right.
Because everybody's losing in that scenario.
Yeah.
Instead of it being about who's best at playing the game, you actually have a foundation to stand on of this is why we do things. This is how we handle things. This is where our faith is. This is where our loyalty is. This is why I would put someone else ahead of myself. Like even in this phase of life for me, 3-month-old baby, about to have a 3-year-old little girl. She turns 3 on Christmas. And when I come home from work, we were talking about this again a little bit before the cameras are on. And a lot of days I have to leave without being done with my work. And I don't like that feeling. I'm a person that thrives on efficiency, I like that word, and progress and traction. And when I have to leave without getting things done, that's tough for me. And then to step into an environment that's now very patience intensive,
Right.
to deny myself the ability to just walk in and do what I want to do and relax or eat or just focus on myself or even my wife, but to actually have other human beings, the girls and then my wife, to put them all ahead of myself. I couldn't do that on my own. I can own that right now, that the only way I can do that is because of God. If you see any good in me, I have a friend that says this all the time and I love it. If you see any good in me or me doing that, you're seeing God, you're not seeing me. It's God through me. I think that that's what needs to be there, especially for a marriage, but even in friendships. I've had a lot of friendships that they were developed or generated by a common interest. Some of it was because we loved partying together. Yeah. Those ones ended the quickest.
Right.
Especially when I stopped partying.
Of course.
They didn't want anything to do with me because I'm not the fun guy anymore. Right. And you saw how shallow those relationships were. But even ones that, it's okay if I don't want to say it that way. It's okay if the relationship sparked initially by you both have a common interest, but then there needs to be more depth to it if you want depth from the relationship.
Right.
Not every relationship needs to be super deep. Right. It's okay to have friendships that are, a little bit surface level and you just enjoy doing certain things, but you need to be able to see them for what they are. Right. So when things do get tough, that that's not the friendship that you're going to be able to rely on or the person you're going to be able to go to because you guys like to work out together or you both like cars or whatever it may be.
Right.
You need to be able to have that awareness of, okay, what is the foundation of this relationship? How deep does it really go? What would things look like if our interests changed or if life got difficult? And then that's where I feel like we stop setting ourselves up to be disappointed in someone else because we're seeing them for who we hope they would be instead of who they've shown us they really are. I've done that a bunch of times.
I 100% agree with you.
A bunch of times.
Something that I've noticed as well, out of my own experience, something that I had to work on as well. Like you said, that expectation, I'm okay because this person's now in my life. Figuring out how deep it is, I always lacked communication wise in that. Right, because I've always been alone.
Very common.
I've always been a lone wolf, and it's just me. And I'm happy being alone. Spend 3 months just with my thoughts, sitting in a bed. Right, so I'm okay with just me being me, and it's just being me. But if you want to grow something and build something together with someone, it has to be deeper conversations, deeper communications. But you have to be open to having those tough, deep communications. I guess vulnerability is a part of it as well, where I still struggle to this day to really open and share when it comes to those deep levels because of that vulnerability, just because of past experiences and stuff like that.
Sometimes because I think there's an element of fear associated with being open and vulnerable with someone that then has the potential to hurt you or let you down.
Or judge you.
Absolutely.
That's a big part of it too.
Absolutely. Great point. But if you think about it, instead of just like the small picture, but as the zoomed out big picture, if you're afraid to have that conversation, are you more afraid of that? Or should you be more afraid of not having that conversation and looking at the big picture of then where things are going to end up because you couldn't have that smaller series of small conversations?
Right.
And I think that if we need a motivator to get us to have the strength to have those open and be those conversations and be vulnerable, it's that, okay, this is going to be really hard, but it's going to be worth it because I don't want to let this go where it potentially will go if we don't do this. It's worth it. Like, you're so many guys where I'm on the golf course or different friends or whatever, and they'll just be like, yeah, I just appease my wife. I just tell, and I'm like, that's not going to lead to anywhere good. And it becomes a habit too.
Yeah.
And then, you have kids and your focus is the kids, at work, everything that's going on. And then the kids are out of the house and you look at each other and you haven't had any of those conversations in over a decade or even more. And you're like, who are you? Who are you? And then either they rediscover who each other are and they like it and it lasts, or they get divorced.
Yeah.
That's very common now.
Yeah.
Extremely common.
That happens more often than really reigniting that flame or finding if that flame was even possible to grow, or if not, right? If it was just a spark.
Or even in the beginning of the relationship, you know, that honeymoon phase where it's like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're just glad you're together. You're just obsessed. And it's just like that. You all know what I'm talking about. But you don't have those tough conversations and you don't set important precedences and boundaries. And then you end up getting married or in a series, you move in together, and then the honeymoon phase ends and you didn't have any of those talks. And you're like, okay, something difficult just happened and that person just handled it completely different than I thought they were going to. And now what?
Or that I'm used to.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah, it's different because now they're not in the honeymoon phase either. And so they're not going to treat you like they used to.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've fallen there so many times.
I think a lot of us have.
Where I've gone all in the honeymoon phase and everything and just went with it.
You know, when you've learned that lesson the hard way, it's so hard to watch your friends go through it. You just want to shake them, you know, whether it's your friends or your family or whatever, because you just see what's coming.
Yeah.
And you hope it's not going to be the case, but you know what it's like because you've gone through it yourself.
And the worst part sometimes, and I've experienced this too, is you're so toxic to yourself because you haven't dealt with your own problems that you do it to yourself again. Right. So I've gone through it. I've experienced it. I've seen it. I've seen how it's not good and it doesn't work out. And yet I did it again.
Like robots.
Exactly.
And we got to change our programming.
Yeah. It's like we all love to say the definition of insanity. Right.
That's exactly right.
And really understanding that, like you mentioned, seeing it from a third perspective and from the outside and seeing the bigger picture, it's very difficult because you have to separate yourself from yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Emotionally to like that facts. Here are the facts that are hurting you. Here's how we could change it. Now decide yes or no.
I feel like that's why a lot of times you could almost consider yourself or feel like you're an expert at someone else's scenario or situation, but just an idiot in your own.
Oh, I felt that so many times.
Me too.
It still happens.
Me too.
Still happens where I'm like, I give you the best advice.
I think being able to recognize it, like it sucks that you're still doing it, but it's better to be able to recognize that you're still doing it than to still be doing it and not know it. Now you really are a robot.
Yeah. 100%.
So at least you have the prompt to go through the corrective phase, the corrective phase, the reprogramming phase. So that way we can stop replicating that behavior.
It's the first step to get you there.
Yeah.
And
it's uncomfortable.
It is. And that's something that I learned, like being alone with my thoughts or just me and really being open to myself and seeing myself from that third or outside perspective. You have to be okay with the hard times and the hard truth. And it's so difficult. And it gets to you and you deny it 100 million times. But that first step of realizing, okay, I need to analyze this and I need to analyze myself and my life and my situation. That's what opens up your mind.
Yeah, because usually what you're having to analyze is something painful that you're not wanting to revisit that's caused you to go on this behavioral pattern that you keep repeating, choosing the same type of person or same environment or whatever. And the only way you're going to understand why you keep doing that is to be willing to look at the painful things that have taken place that have caused you to start making those types of decisions.
And admitting that it can be your fault.
Yes.
And that you
taking
can be
responsibility.
Yes. And being okay with that being an option. Because we go through this.
I love that point. I love that you just said that being able to take responsibility for your part in it, because we all want to point the finger and say, this is what happened to me. And the only reason why I'm this way is we justify our actions or inactions because of something else that someone did or didn't do for or to us. But you still play your part now in how you handle it.
100%. Or we create this fake reality in our minds to justify our decision
making
about that, or what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, this is how I think. This is how they think.
Yeah. Okay, so now how do we get out of Germany? Where are we going?
Yeah, so stayed in Germany for a while, lived in Switzerland for a bit, went to Barcelona as well, and then came back to Germany. I was with my parents working for their businesses as well, transitioned from retail into that kind of sales.
Is this the first time that you've now worked with the parents? Or had you done it on and off?
I mean, I worked in like restaurants for sure, but this type of business and not that kind of consumer business. That was the first time, right? And it was great. It helped them build up one of their companies, or helped with two of their companies, and did a lot of dirty, like groundwork, right? Go and deliver and package and reorder. And I mean, I worked on kind of farmers markets here in the States, but in Europe it's huge, right? You have your twice a week, you have a farmers market. Every town has it. All of the vendors come, all the farmers as well, things like that. So I worked on one of those.
There's been a little bit more of a resurgence of that.
Yeah.
Because of people pushing back about how bad our food has gotten.
Yeah.
And so now you're starting to see those have gotten more popular. Even over here on High Street, they have those all the time.
And I love that. It's supporting your local farmers from these big companies that just want to push you out as much as quantity as possible instead of quality.
And you're getting actual real whole foods instead of whatever the hell shortcut they've taken to pad margins.
Yeah. Help them build that. I was at the market at 4 a.m. building up a tent at 25 degrees Fahrenheit on a Wednesday morning and working till 3 p.m. and then going home, doing all of the after work, but then taking a quick nap to then, continue and try to enjoy my life or my day for a second.
Wow.
So it's just on and off, right? And then that's where I said, okay, I'm my own person. I want to go find myself. I've become the better version that I'd like to become. Because before leaving Europe, the last 3 years was really working on myself. I excluded myself. I kind of crept into a dark hole and just sat with myself and my thoughts and who I am and what I want and who I would like to see me become. Right? So all this self-judgment, I was getting rid of it and I was breaking it down and just being happy with me. And that was very freeing, but also very difficult and very scary at the same point. And it took a long, long time.
What gave you the courage to do it?
I was unhappy in my life. And I was seeing my surroundings and everybody was happy. And everybody had things that I wanted that I didn't get, that I haven't, that I've tried to work towards and didn't have, right? Until I realized it's me. And it's the things that I'm pushing and stressing myself out about to get or to have or to be was stopping me from becoming those things or having those things. And we said this before the podcast, but I really believe and understood that things happen for us, but we have to allow it to happen to us. And it was me standing in my own way. I have to be this certain way.
If someone's just hearing that for the first time, and it's like, I love that. What do you mean by that? How to explain that further? That it'll happen for us, but we got to let it happen to us. Like, explain that.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back a little because before you and I met, complete transparency as well, I didn't understand the truth behind that. I understood what it meant and how I can use it, but I didn't know what it really meant, like the reasoning behind it. And I don't want to lose my track here, but it was so important for me to understand that everybody else around me is happy and they have their own problems. So why can't I be like that? Right.
So you're learning to be content.
Yes. That's a great word for it. Yeah. But I didn't know how or why.
I think I'll speak for myself. It's going to be a lifelong journey for me.
Yes.
Being content is something that's difficult for me.
100%.
I even feel guilty saying it out loud, but it's the truth.
And it's so difficult in every aspect of our life as well. Yeah. Work, personally.
And I think even content now could even have a negative association that is if you're lazy or you're not striving enough, you don't have big enough aspirations or dreams.
Yeah.
And that's definitely not the case.
No.
To me now, the proper definition of contentment is that it's okay to strive for the right reasons, the right motivators, if they're in the right place. But it's being okay and at peace and being able to find joy and happiness where you're at right now and not thinking it's only going to be when you get to where you think you need to go or accomplish.
Yeah. Feeling yourself now
Yeah.
And not just thinking about how you'll feel in the future or how you felt in the past.
Yeah.
Like we're always in the future or in the past. We're not here. Just this moment, being with you, enjoying this moment, making a memory out of it. Yeah. It's those things that we just pass by because everything's so fast today.
It was you while you were talking, like just about 3 minutes ago, I literally had just like had this little moment to myself, and I was listening to you, but I still had this little moment where I was just like, I'm so thankful for this. I get to sit across someone like you and listen to you be open, vulnerable, this transparent, and hear the things that are coming out of your mouth that could provide so much value into other people's lives that are going through something similar. It's just a blessing to be able to sit here and enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
Whether if it's just you and I, this is the only people that listen, or what, and Eric that listen and watch it, or however many people watch it, it doesn't matter. It's just, it's a privilege. And the Bible talks about thou shalt not covet. So covetousness being an issue. I always just more so thought of that of being jealous of like what someone else has. But it also is that you're not content and you always need to have more. Think you need more. I need more. I need to accomplish more. I need to be more to be happy.
Right.
And that's what I'm from a positive word association with contentment, what I'm really working on. Just let go, like what you're saying, let go of all the pressures that you're putting on yourself of saying, I can't let myself be happy. I can't let myself celebrate until this, but it's not now. It's never now.
Yeah.
Man, we miss out on so much joy, so much happiness.
And I'm glad you brought up the Bible too. This is what I was going towards earlier is I didn't understand why I thought this way and I felt this way and why it feels good to let go and understand that things happen for us, but I have to be open to accepting it. And then it was just there in my mind. And then when I met you and you spoke through the Bible to me as well, or you know, that everything clicked suddenly. Like you said, we were here on the couch too. And I already felt it. And I kind of shared my backstory and who I am and kind of my pains that I went through as well. And until that moment, it never made sense for me. And then I understood, okay, there's so much more power behind this than I knew, that I thought would be even possible. And now I'm happy to let things happen for me. I'm open to it. I'm excited for it. But I'm still content in the sense of, I'm not better than anybody else. That means I don't deserve it more than anyone else. I'm just waiting and I'm happy when it happens. Right?
And even if it doesn't happen the way I think or want it to, it's still okay.
Because the next step after that, that's what actually is supposed to happen to me.
Yes.
It's the first door that you go through might not look great, but the door after or the room after that, that's beautiful.
That's called trust.
Exactly.
Trusting God. You know, when you said that little phrase about being able to receive it, allowing it to happen, I immediately thought, I've seen this illustration a bunch of times where this little kid's holding on to the little teddy bear and they won't let it go. And I've seen it with Jesus. I've seen it with just a random guy, their dad, whatever it's supposed to be. And they have this giant teddy bear behind them. And the little kid won't let go of the little one when he wants to switch it out for this ginormous. And that's not saying bigger is better, but the whole point is that we won't let go of what we feel like we can control and have that gives us our little reprieve or peace or happiness to actually allow what God has for us that's so much better than we could ever do for ourselves or control or perceive to control or create for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, anything we're able to do anyways, He's enabled us to do it. He's enabled us to do it.
Until I understood that and felt that through you and your presence as well, and when we spoke, there was just this darkness around it where I didn't understand it and I was trying to figure it out. And
I think the only reason why you felt that through me was because I know exactly what that darkness feels like.
Yeah.
And I was willing to talk about it with you, even though I didn't know you. And I was allowing God to, I definitely wasn't saying things to you that were going to be like, I'm going to impress this guy. If anything, you're probably going to think, what is wrong with this guy? You know, but it's the brokenness that we both, and the pain that we both have been through, that then you saw, wait, there's hope coming through now. Like something had to have transpired at some point.
Yeah.
God healed him enough that my brokenness stopped getting in the way of him being able to reflect through me. Like that's what I look at now is I want to be like a crystal clear piece of glass that God can shine through me to you, to any other person.
Yeah.
And my brokenness would be the fractures in the glass, the murkiness in the glass, my pride primarily.
Right.
And then it's not even that it needs to be perfect, but even like the blemishes where there used to be a break or a crack that he's now healed and fixed and you can still see, but he's able to still shine through it. You're able to relate with those blemishes, but still receive the hope and love that shines through it to you.
Yeah. And that's what it felt like too. And like that feeling of stepping out into the sun and you feel that warmth and everything's beautiful and clear and you can see for hundreds of miles or, you know, a couple miles.
The burden is light. It's gone. It's off your shoulders. The chains finally come off.
Exactly. And so much weight was gone out of nowhere. And in my mind, and with that came peace too, like calmness in my mind as well. And since then, I'm just so much happier. I know what I want. I know what I want now because we hang on to what we wanted 10 years ago because that's us. We don't change, right? But we're adapting. Our whole life is adapting. So I finally understood those things. And since then, I've been very clear in my mind. And that's a beautiful thing to experience.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't until God had changed me and I had changed enough that what I wanted started to change.
I love that.
What mattered to me started to change.
Yeah.
So how'd you end up here?
So
I gotta prompt you. I know.
After Germany, I moved to Argentina and lived there for almost a year. And then I started working for Jacob.
Yeah.
And started working for him a couple months and then had a real not bad experience or breakup, but I was in a relationship that just didn't work out.
It's not easy.
We went our own separate ways. It didn't fit, like you said, the conversations, the communications weren't deep enough to see where we were going to go or if there was potential or not. And then we split ways and I came over for a couple weeks and then Jacob and I became best friends, right? And work is amazing and we just understood that me being close by to progress the business is very helpful too. But I just fell in love with this place and with the people and with you and Eric and all these people and all this positivity surrounded around me, which I didn't have for many, many years.
So this would be a perfect point to intro the new to medical device sales commercial with Jacob on the screen. Hit it, Eric.
My name is Jacob McLaughlin, and I'm the founder of New to Medical Device Sales. Medical device sales is the selling of medical equipment to hospitals, surgeons. They're actually in the surgeries, and the average rep's going to make around $177,000. And what we've been able to do is help people break in about 8 weeks at around $100,000 starting out in the industry. It usually is 5 to 7 interviews, 6 to 12 weeks long in the interview process, and they go up against thousands of people. But that's because you are going to be working with some of the smartest human beings, such as surgeons. You're going to make over 6 figures. You get your car paid for, all your gas paid for, and all your travel paid for. We've been able to help over 2,000 people do this in the last 2 years. Not only do we help people break in to make a difference and change other people's lives, they also get to change their lives. If you're interested in helping people and you're interested in financially becoming free, we can definitely help you. And I think you should check out New to Medical Device Sales, our podcast, while you can also click the link where you guys can learn more about what we do at New to Medical Device Sales. I absolutely love Brenton. I thank him so much for what he's doing for all of you. And I hope you guys keep enjoying the episode.
And we're back. So now let's talk about it a little bit. What is your role there? What do you love about the company? Like the culture, your life has drastically changed and improved in much deeper levels than economically or socially. To your core, your spirit, your soul, your mind, your mental health. That's what's most important. But it still is very important too, to have a community and feel like you belong somewhere and you're not out of place anymore. And I love that you have that. What is it about the company that you love being a part of and what you see it doing in other people's lives? Because it's like, even in the commercial that you guys just watched, Jacob says, if you want to change other people's lives and also change your life by, getting financial freedom and the different things that come with it, then this is something you should check out. So what does that look like for you? Because you get to see things on a day-to-day from, behind the scenes and the interaction with your guys' students and customers, and you guys have so many testimonials. The testimonials on your site are hundreds. Very well done. Yeah, it's crazy.
And here's something I always like to say to the testimonials too. Just random people sitting on their porch, in their room, in the car, right? It's not in a studio or scripted or anything. It's just people wanting to share the value of something that they saw value in and help them, and wanting to help others, right? And that's a key word, is helping others. That's what we all love to do. That's why I love what I'm doing, and it's the most fun, right? Helping people first of all, see more potential in themselves is a really big part of it. Seeing that they can achieve something that's been told that they won't if they don't have certain things in place or have done certain things. And seeing their mindset switch from such a negative, closed off mindset.
I have a quote right in here. It says, if you can change your mindset, you can change your life.
100% agree with that.
I obviously did not know you were going to say what you just said, but that is exactly what I was referencing when I even made this note to read this quote out loud during this episode. And you just led up to that perfectly. You teed that up so money. And it's so true.
It is.
Because we could be in the same room with the same people, with the same resource. And if we change our mindset, we can change everything, even if nothing else changes.
Yeah.
We can all do that. That's accessible to us right now.
Everybody can do it.
I think that that's something that seems so oversimplified that people don't invest in it enough.
It feels irrelevant.
Yeah, but it's
not.
everything.
It is everything.
Even if you want to associate it to your faith, it's the same thing, because if you run everything through perspective that, like we said, God is in control and what he has for you, and it's the same thing. You're changing your mindset to align your thinking with him instead of your own thinking and your own ways of doing things.
Yeah.
What motivates you and what drives you each day?
Finding myself more and more.
Okay.
These past 11 months have been life-changing for me as a person. Not business-wise, but like personally, internally.
I've seen it.
It's been such a change. I'm way more happier. I get up because I love what I do as well. But also I see all the possibilities now in life. And that goes back to that change of mindset, being open for it. I know that I am going to have a great life. I know that I'm going to find somebody that I love as much as they love me. I know that I'm going to one day have a family, whatever that might look like, right? And have that family around me. So it's knowing that's going to happen and being content with waiting for it and just being there, right? Because we all want it now. I mean, I'm 36. With 24, I thought I was going to have a family and a beautiful wife and a backyard and all these things, right? And yet my life has been different. But that's okay. And these days, it seems like that's not okay.
Right.
You get pressured into these things.
Right.
And especially through my experience in Germany too, and here as well, you see, young, married with kids, already living life, experiencing life, and you're like, well, I don't have that. Now I'm not part of the norm. I'm different. Now I'm and all these negative thoughts come into place when it's just like, no, I'm not just settling. I want to find that true whatever.
And
love,
it's different for
job.
everybody.
It's different for everyone.
Dax has a song about that. He just identifies a lot of the different societal expectations that we conform to. It's, like you said, you should have a family and a house by a certain age, or make your money during this time frame, and then be able to relax at this time frame, and be able to retire at this time frame. And it's like, says who?
Yeah.
Says who?
Exactly.
And without getting out too deep and going in a completely different direction, it feels orchestrated for sure, and I don't deny that. I feel like this system has been in place for a long time for a purpose, to serve someone's agenda, to keep you thinking the way they want you to think.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage us all to think differently, to think for yourself, to not just be a robot, like we said several times now, and just conform to what society says that you need to do and when you need to do it, and just to really think through, why am I doing this?
Yeah. What's
the motive? What purpose does it serve? And to have the self-awareness of why you have different predispositions. I just murdered that. Cut that, restart. Why we have certain predispositions, and I nailed it, to do or be a certain way. And then also, to identify what we really do want out of life. And is what we're doing right now, is it serving that? Or is it just a complete sidetrack? Or is it taking us in a different direction? I can't remember his name right now, but there's this guy that has a podcast, and it's a big podcast. And I'm sure right now when I say it, a lot of people are going to know what I'm talking about. But he's an ex-military guy, and he's got a wife and kids. And every decision he makes now, he makes the decision through the filter of, is this decision going to be benefiting my family, my unit, or is it going to be hindering them, hurting them, or is it just for me? Is it selfish?
Right.
And if it's not benefiting or improving their lives in some way or making me a better father or husband, then why am I doing this? And he says it himself. He's like, it's a boring life. But that's okay. That's okay. Because even like when you start getting that mode, like you talked about when you're in the party phase, like you're chasing experiences, and it might not seem like everyone from that, again, society says, well, you're experiencing, go experience. Like it never fills you up. You just keep chasing the next experience, the next high, the next thing that you feel like is going to check that box or fill that void. And it never does. It never does.
100%. I feel like it's really about this fake or future that you want to have in your mind. You want it now, but you don't want to do the work to get there. And it's like me when I was partying, I'd spend $1,000 a night, even though I didn't have it. But I thought, oh, that's who I want to be. But I didn't do the work to get there. And then the next 3 weeks, I'd have to eat ramen out of a box because
let's not just skip the next day when
Right.
you're hungover and realize how much you spent.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
And that mindset, changing that mindset, going back to new to medical device sales as well, it's really about helping people understand, figuring out what they want. And whatever you want, that's okay. It might not be for me or for them or for whoever, but it's okay because it's for you.
Man, you keep teeing me up perfectly. My other quote that I had here was, I will not be a product of my circumstances.
I love that.
I am, and I will be a product of my decisions.
Yes.
It's exactly what you just said. And that's what you're teaching these people.
Yeah. And that's what I'm helping them realize too. Now, for my position as well, I speak to a lot of people that do want to join new to medical device sales, and they're trying to break into the industry, which it's very, very difficult, especially if you don't have a plan and a strategy of how to break in. But it's even more difficult when you don't know what you don't know.
True.
And Jacob loves saying this as well. And you'll see it on the podcast and things like that too.
Yeah.
It's so true, especially when it comes to medical device sales, but in life in general.
Yes.
Right. I go in and I say, okay, I'm trying to break into medical device sales, and it's maybe a couple interviews and then it'll be a couple people and I can wing it. But the reality is it's up to 3 months of interviewing, 5 to 7 interview stages. You're going up against hundreds, 300, 500 other applicants because it's such a beautiful career to have. Everybody wants to get in, of course, right? But really understanding that and saying, okay, I need to invest into myself so I can invest into my future.
I need a strategy.
And it's that part of, I want to spend $1,000 a night at a club, but I don't want to do the work to get there. And that's the same with us too, right? They want to break into medical device sales. You want to be making 6 figures, but doing the work to get there and understanding the guidance and the mentorship because you don't know what you don't know is such a big resource that at the end of the day, it doesn't just save you time and money, but changes your mindset. That opens up so much potential in the future.
Long-term continuously saves you time and money.
Yeah, and it's that investment in yourself to continue to learn and become better, a better version of who you want to be. That's my drive. That's what gets me up as well.
It, man.
Right?
I love it. And I love that you guys are having the opportunity to share what's driving you with other people to hopefully produce a similar result in them. And as you've said, discovering yourself and learning more about yourself. I don't want that to be confused with what a lot of people, go experience. You're escaping still.
Yes.
What you're saying is, I want to be able to sit alone with myself, where even in times in the past, like for myself or for you, where we were forced to do that, but we were absolutely miserable. And then after that time period, we were so afraid of ever having to do that again that we had vices or experiences or things that we chased to try to make sure that never happened again. Yeah. But now we completely kill the power that fear has over us because we're not afraid to be alone with ourselves anymore.
I love that. That's so true. I feel that.
Me too. And I think, again, that's going to be a lifelong journey for both of us, but I'm thankful we can do that together.
And it's something that once you understand it, you're looking forward to it as well. That's another reason to stand up and get up in the morning.
Absolutely.
Because you want to change. You want to better your life, your family's life, everybody.
Yeah.
It's motivating.
Yeah. How important is it to you to have a genuine community around you?
I've learned, and I didn't realize this, and I didn't believe in this, that I now know it's the most important thing for me.
Yeah.
It's
You didn't think you needed it before because it almost made you feel weak if you did.
Yeah. And I always felt like I had to show my worth and put it out there and tell everybody about myself and everything, right? Because I wasn't happy with who I am and who I was, and I wanted to put up a front.
Yeah. And if you're not happy with yourself, why would other people be happy with you? Why would other people like you if you don't?
I don't like myself, if I show my true who I am, or even with like gaming and the nerd side as well, I'd kind of hide that because there's this kind of stereotype around it, right? And
I see.
I used to play World of Warcraft. I put a lot of hours into sitting in front of a monitor, right? But it was the happiest times that I, for myself, had too. And understanding that that's okay. And I'm proud of that. And I can openly speak about, right? Now, it's just gaming. There's nothing big around it. But for me, that was a big thing.
I think what you're proud of is that now you don't feel any shame attached to just being at peace and okay with saying, yeah, I like this and I enjoy this and I don't care what you think about it.
Yeah. And if you don't like it and because of that reason you don't want to hang out with me or you see me differently, I'm good. I'm glad we got it out of the way now. It goes back to that communication, understanding, is this something even in friendships that we want to continue down the line? And that's the same thing. And I know the people that I want around myself I want to be okay and transparent and truthful and be me, right?
And I think that's where a lot of wisdom needs to be deployed in how you choose a community or allow a community to be developed.
Yeah.
Because community is a big catchphrase or keyword right now that you hear a lot, or tribe. We actually, my guest last week, Nicholas, he talked about tribe and how much it bothers him, how much that's been distorted. And I agreed with him. And when I ask you that question, I think the most important word in that sentence, when I said, what does it mean to have, or what does it mean to you to have a genuine community around you, is the word genuine. Because it's not really that hard to find a community. You can find a community of drug addicts or partiers or whatever. Just because you guys have similar interests, like that's nice, you're not alone. But again, like what you said earlier, it's possible to be alone even though you're around other people. And so it's important not just to find a community, but to find the right community. And then that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that the foundation of that community, if this isn't just like a simple interest group, we're talking about people you do life with. The foundation of that community needs to be something that you guys, whether it's your faith or something that's just deep, that you can rely on. Because again, when you have differences of opinion or hard things take place and life's difficult, that's why you feel safe and seen and loved by that community, is because there is a foundation that you're standing on instead of just a commonality or a common interest.
Yeah.
So I think we were talking about how important it is to have a difficult relationship conversations. That goes into play here big time with your community. 100%. You can't have those types of conversations with your community. It's not the right community for
And then you don't want to be with that community either.
Exactly.
And that's you're spot on.
The wrong community can tear you down. They keep you stuck.
Yeah.
And the right community is going to love and encourage you, and for you just being yourself and not going to judge you. They're going to tell you the truth, but they're not going to be the ones to chop your legs off, or the ones that are going to keep you stuck without you even realize it. Because I think, think about, it's pretty common for someone that has a substance abuse scenario that they like to find other people that also are using the same substance or whatever, because it makes you not feel like you're doing something wrong. You're doing something with other people that's similar, and it almost is like you justify through it. 100%. You feel safe. You feel commonality. You feel like what you're doing isn't going to be ostracized because you have other people doing it with you too.
And you don't have, when you do it with people that do it as well, you don't have that judgment.
Exactly.
That your other community would, or they would constantly bring it up or speak about it. And that's just stressful.
So community could definitely be a very negative reinforcer.
Yeah. And if you don't have the right community, there's a fine line of accepting it, but also closing off from everything. Like I had the wrong community or the wrong friends or people that not the wrong friends, but I just didn't fit into. So for me, in my head in that moment, it was, I don't deserve friends. I'm never going to find friends anyways. So I might as well just be alone. And then I closed myself off, right? Which is very difficult to get back out of at some point. So it's so important to be aware of where you're at right now, where you could lead to, and just be with yourself. Right?
you have a very unique perspective of how you were born elsewhere, grew up here, moved there, moved back. You lived in all these different countries. What advice would you give other people who are coming to this country for work or just to live here in general? You know, because you've experienced so much and so many different variations, like how do you give someone advice today coming here? Like, what would you tell them?
This is going to be so cliche, and I had to, and I heard it myself as well, and I told it to myself too, but it was very difficult for me to act on it and do it. And what I would say is be open, like go out. Don't close yourself off because you don't know the language, the area, the place, the friendships, all these things. Like be okay going somewhere alone. Going to an event alone, like getting that foot in the door, basically, which is I know for me, it was so difficult, even to this day. Yeah. I'll get invited because people want to get to know me, but that would stress me out so much internally. And then I'd back out because I was scared of moving forward and finding good people, but also finding like bad people, right? And being rejected, etc. And it held me from moving to a lot of different countries. It held me back a lot. Because I didn't want to take that leap. And I wasn't okay with like, okay, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go to a bar. I'm going to go to a restaurant. I'm going to speak to people. I'm going to be active and out there. And I just closed myself off. And it just took longer until I found my friends and my community.
In a sense, you're saying don't be afraid to fail.
Yes. And to change as well. All the countries that I've lived in, there's different expectancies. You have to be, there's change everywhere.
Like a cultural expectancy?
Yeah, even culturally. Like I know Germans are more closed off and not as open with who they are and kind of private when it comes to those things.
So if someone was vulnerable and acted that way in that scenario, I'd be like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? It would be questioned.
Okay. And that's how I felt too, right? Growing up in America, being open, friendly, nice, being very transparent and truthful.
It depends on where you are in America.
Of course, right.
If you're like in Texas or Kansas and you get a little wave, how you doing?
Right.
If you're in a subway in New York City, it's a little different.
Yeah. I guess that's like Southern Florida kind of vibe, right?
There you go. There you go.
But then Germans are very closed off and restricted until they let you in. So understanding that, it was very difficult for me. And I closed myself up instead of still being me and being open. Even moving to Argentina and understanding the culture there and how they act and what's important and what's of relevance and what's not. It was difficult, and I had to put myself in uncomfortable situations. And I had to be okay with having a little anxiety for that first step to get over that hurdle, because then everything after that is gone. Right?
And the anxiety goes away too.
Immediately.
And if you don't face it, it grows.
Exactly.
And you're still stuck and still anxious, and the anxiety grows and grows. And that instead, if you do face it, you get the intense anxiety there as you face it, but most of the times it subsides.
And that's the same with even, what we do
its power.
And how we help people too with new to medical device sales is we help them understand that it isn't, you need to change. You need to be able to adapt and be open to change if you want to break in the right way when it comes to medical device sales.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. What does legacy mean to you? And what do you want your legacy to be?
It's interesting. I've thought about this a lot over my lifetime, just randomly.
I've been excited to ask you this question because you have such a unique story that I'm excited to hear your answer.
For me, there's nothing that makes me more happy because of like when I can help someone smile and be happy. Just because of my presence, me just listening to someone too, having them vent as well. And in terms of legacy, I like to put in, what do I want to be remembered for? And for me, that's kindness. And it took a long time for me to figure that out. And I wasn't always kind, right? I've gone through all my phases and my stages and dealt with my problems and had bad times. And I've been not bad person, but not
hard at different times.
Yeah, exactly. But kindness. And that's even speaking with you and letting go of all of this darkness and all this pain that I've had and understanding how I can let go of that in my situation through speaking to you and learning about the Bible and this connection, right? It all suddenly made sense for me, or it gave me an understanding of what my past has been. And what I got out of it was kindness. I love helping. I love being kind. I love seeing like making people smile and like telling you, hey, you look great today. Like, your style looks great, or hey, it's just great to have you as a person in my life, or you are important, things like that. And for people to then have that, like, thank you, right? And like, yeah, kindness.
What do you think it was in that conversation when we talk through what the Bible says about it and some of our commonalities in our experiences that healed, that allowed you to feel safe or be able to start being kind?
Your past experience and the words that you gave and kind of how you found this connection is what helped me see that connection in my past experiences, in my past, right?
You have no idea how much that means to me to hear you say that.
And
it gives purpose to my pain, man.
And I'm so grateful for that as well. I was always in that darkness, but I didn't realize it.
I was in that.
I faked it for so long, and I didn't even know I was faking it. You know, it was just like, yeah, I'm good. No, I'm great. No, I don't need therapy. Yeah, exactly.
It was like my mysterious, like, I'm fine.
Exactly.
I always did.
Yeah, and you become mysterious because you just pull back.
And then in some areas, it even served like with women or stupid things like the environments that it, like that mysterious card you play, it almost would then like kind of reinforce it or fortify it because you liked what it then got you. Man,
100%. I know exactly how you feel, what you mean. Nothing was ever deep thought wise, emotions wise.
So much.
We're always on the surface level. And then we kind of like dip our toe in and realize, wow, there's so much more depth to it. That's scary. I'm not going to do it. And I'll hang out at the surface level again instead of really going into depth and seeing what you could find.
I think what I realized is that I could never actually be content if I was always so afraid that whatever good I have right now is going to be taken from me. I don't have to be afraid of it anymore. And that was the only way that I could actually start to find peace and have contentment was, because we both know what that feels like. All of a sudden, it just feels like your legs just got cut out from underneath you, or the rug got pulled out from underneath you.
Yeah.
And now you're in this phase of life where it's lonely and fragmented. A mutual friend said that to me the other day, that the traumas and different things like that happen in life will fragment your reality. I think you could really resonate with that.
Yeah.
You think about the different phases of when you moved and, when you're on your back and when you're like those 3 months, like it distorts your ability to, in a healthy way, look at your life timeline and then be hopeful about the future. But instead we have all these breaks. So how can we be excited by what's ahead if when we look back, we have all these fragmented,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, and now I'm just like, okay, I can have hope for the future because I can actually have hope for just today. Like my buddy and I talked about this for, like 2 hours yesterday, and it was an amazing conversation. I was so thankful for it because I walked away from it so encouraged. It's just focusing on today. It's not about being negligent and irresponsible. It's not what we're talking about. But I don't need to look past today and worry about tomorrow. That will be what allows me to be present in today. But it's also what allows me to have peace because, today, the people I love are here. Like we get to have a conversation like this.
Yeah.
I do have the ability to speak and talk and hear and breathe and form a cognitive thought, or I just know you and I both know what those moments are like when stuff like that gets stripped away.
Yeah.
And so then this overwhelming fear moves in that it's going to happen again at any moment. And it's just, it still could. But what we end up losing out on is all the moments in between that we allow to be severely hindered or cheapened because we're constantly in fear, anticipating for that shoe to drop again, for that phone call to come in or whatever that may be. Yeah. And I'm just going to be thankful for right now. And tomorrow's going to be a new day, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm going to do the same thing again tomorrow and just take it a day at a time.
And in our social media life these days, that's so difficult because everything's cut down into 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, right? That's, in my opinion, another layer of holding us back because we don't take a moment to really sit there. Our attention span is so low now.
Is so rampant.
Yeah. And distraction is so easy because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But really, especially, and this is when I was in the hospital, when you're bound to not having anything else and sitting there and thinking and staring at a ceiling for hours and for days and for weeks, you start to understand. You start to realize, you start to feel, and you start to dissect yourself and your thoughts, and you start to deal with your problems too. And you start to enjoy those moments. And that's what you're speaking about, is really like, everybody take 3 seconds or 3 minutes and 5 minutes and just sit there and be grateful for today, what you have now.
That's how I start my mornings.
And that's
in prayer,
so
gratitude, because I have to set my framework for the entire day. Set that my perspective in gratitude.
Yeah. And you decide what your reality is.
Yeah.
Right? You decide today if you're going to be happy or not, no matter the circumstances, no matter what happens. It's you.
That's the one power we do have, is decide as how we're going to handle what we have or what's ahead of us today.
100%.
If you could have a billboard with anything you want on it, your name signed at the bottom, what would be on it?
Oh. Am I allowed to curse?
Anything you want.
Fuck it.
I was not expecting that. I love it.
Yeah, fuck it.
Why?
Right?
Okay, explain.
So when I move, it's not like a pre-planned 6 months, a year out, I'm planning. It's, let's do this, right?
Okay.
And everybody is always like, why are you doing this? You have to do this. What about all these uncertainties? I moved to Vienna. I had a job lined up, but I didn't have any money. I was like, fuck it. Why not? Right? What am I going to regret? Because I don't want to be the one saying, well, what if, right? What if I would have done this? And that's very cliche, but holding yourself to it, that's the difficult part. And being okay with all that judgment. Nobody understands it but you. That's what I would say, right? Fuck it. It's my life. It's my 50, 60, 70 years that I have here. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe me. It's just, I want to enjoy my life.
You're speaking my language. I think what you're also saying in a much more PG version of it would be fear not.
I love that. Fear not. Yeah.
I was thinking through that actually this morning. I had devotion this morning. I was on my own, and I've been thinking about that actually since my conversation with my buddy yesterday, and then again this morning on my own. And, you know, there's been brands, no fear, and different stuff like that. But I really thought through that, of fear not. That simple phrase, again, here we are to something that's so simple, but yet so powerful. If I apply that to pretty much any scenario, it's applicable. Like, I don't have to fear because God's in control. I don't have to fear what other people are going to think of me because I know what God thinks of me and what I think of myself and what my family, my wife and my daughters think of me.
Yes.
And sometimes even those people might not view you the way that you necessarily want me to. And that's really scary, you know, your siblings or your family or whatever. And go ahead if you want to say something.
Being okay, like accepting that that's okay, that's big and difficult to get to as well.
It is.
Being okay with your family might not be seeing it your way, right? Your family might have something else in mind for your life, but it's in the sentence, it's your life. And being okay with that, and possibly losing friends or family because of that. But to find your true happiness, find my true happiness, I'm okay with that because things happen for us.
You ever catch yourself having like hypothetical conversations in your head or in the shower or whatever?
All the time.
I think so many of us do that.
All the time.
And again, why are you doing it? You're anticipating, you have a fear associated or an anxious thought attached to something, and now you're trying to prep for it. You're trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
But again, fear not.
Jacob always says this on the podcast as well, and when we speak with our students or people that are really trying to change their lives, is we always think about all the things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
What if this happens to me? What if I'm the only one? What if I'm that one person that's not average that is going to fail? What if? But we never think about the positive.
Yeah.
What if I do make it? What if I do go through the interview process? What if I do get that 6-figure job? What if I do invest in myself?
Yeah.
What if I do tell my spouse that I love them, right? What if I do take less work on today and go spend time with my family? Those are the things that we should be thinking about, not just all the negativity, right? And Jacob taught me this, and it makes sense. And you can apply it in any part of your life as well.
It's empowering.
Yeah. And it makes you feel good,
not
and you're
from
courageous.
a pride standpoint.
No.
Because you're actually not really even necessarily relying on yourself. You're actually getting to the point where you're not letting fear stop you from your ability to trust.
Yeah. And once you can overcome fear, and we all know this, and we've all experienced it too, 9 out of 10 times, something great's going to happen. Something good, and you're going to progress in your roadmap of your life, right?
One thing I want to address right there before we wrap up, and the reason why I want to address it is because I, for so long, would be the person that's watching or listening to this and say, okay, but what about that 1 out of 10 times that you get the call and your brother's dead, or whoever, or whatever? You know, it's the worst of the worst does happen. Yeah. And the truth is, the bottom line is it does happen.
And it hurts.
It does happen. But when you and I tried to numb ourselves out or harden ourselves to the point that if we did get that 1 out of 10 chance that that terrible thing happens, or when it happens again, that we thought if we were hard and unemotional and killed all that part of us, you know, killed that side of us, that it would protect us from when that, if and when that happens again. But what you miss out on is the other 9 out of 10 things that did happen that were good. They might still happen, but you're not going to be able to enjoy or appreciate them because you've hardened yourself off so much to anticipate the one thing.
You might even, it might not happen to you because you're actively rejecting it because you're in this dark, deep mindset.
Well, and even that, let's just look at it from like just hypothetical scenario that, like you said, let's use the number 10. 9 out of 10 things that happen are good and 1 out of the 10 is bad. If I've hardened myself off so much and desensitized myself to prepare for the 1 out of 10 that I miss out on the enjoyment of the 9, it's all like sometimes, well, at least it's going to be worth it when that bad thing happens. You're going to be ready for it. That's not true. That's a lie. No. I've tried it. Yeah. I've experienced it firsthand. It still sucks. It still hurts just as bad. It hurts. The pain is just as intense. You just missed out on the 9. And then to me, it's even worse, because you still have to go through the one thing and it's still just as hard, but you don't have the other 9 things to level out all the good things that could have happened that actually would prepare you more to be able to handle the one bad thing that did happen. Yeah. You forfeited all of that because you were so focused on when that next bad thing was going to happen. Yeah. You missed out on all the beautiful things those good things would have done in your life. Yeah. Or people.
100%. You don't have that strength and that power from all those great things. I get it. You know, I mean, bad thing after bad thing after bad thing happens. At some point, you're like, okay, only bad things are going to happen.
Been there.
Right? And you forget and you actively block out all the good things that happen.
You do.
And then they don't exist. So this 1 to 10 only becomes a 1. The other numbers don't even exist, right? So you're shading them out. And it holds us back in so many parts of our life.
If you can change your mindset, you can change your life.
Exactly.
Thanks for doing this with me today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I really
I've said
appreciate
something
it.
to a few people this week that know you, how much I've been looking forward to this.
Same.
I just knew this was going to be awesome. I really enjoyed this, man. Thank you.
Me too.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Make it even possible for us to actually, you know what, I'm not going to give you that credit. We'd be doing it anyways. So thanks for watching and listening. And whether you do or don't, we're still going to be doing it.
And thank you for giving everybody this platform as well. And for all the listeners out there, and I've been there, just hearing someone speak about their perspective and their pain, what they went through, helped me go through my pain. Mm-hmm. So thank you for doing this and helping others.
Fear not applies to that.
100%.
I didn't want to do stuff like this for the longest time because I just didn't want to open myself up to more criticism.
Yeah.
I was afraid of more criticism, more negativity, things I'd have to block out or whatever.
Yeah.
Thankfully, God has healed me enough that even when criticism does take place or people are talking bad about whatever that is, it's okay. I'm not happy about it. I don't want it.
Right.
But I don't have to be afraid of it anymore. It's okay.
Because of that clarity that you and we found through God as well, everything isn't as unachievable. as we once thought. We can see clearer now, right? And I can go make this happen. I can be this person. I can see the guidance out of something. And I feel that love from my community and the people around me, but also my connection to God.
I think what took away the fear for me was because I used to be so self-reliant that even if I can't on my own, it's still okay. That doesn't make me a failure. That doesn't make me any less worth of being loved by someone.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me any less valuable to the people that are valuable to me. And if it does, there's deeper problems and brokenness going on with them, and that's part of life. But I don't have to be a high-achieving, high-performing chameleon that can make every single person that I'm in a room with like me. I don't have to beat everybody. I don't have to be better. I don't have to be the highest achiever. Just be okay, man. It's
exactly that.
Fucking fear not.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they go together. I like both.
Exactly. Fucking fear not. I love that.
Let's go get that tatted together. I'm down if you're down. See you guys in the next episode.